Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. We'll be talking about KubeCF and why we think it's an amazing platform for innovation. First, let's discuss what makes KubeCF special. At the top of that list, we could find Helm. Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes, and it's been graduated from incubation into the Cloud Native Computing Foundation earlier this year. Helm makes it easy for our users to install on Kubernetes and to manage their deployments. Another thing that makes KubeCF special is the fact that you can deploy either with Eirini or Diego. Diego is the old container scheduler that came built into Cloud Foundry, and Eirini is the new component that bridges the gap between Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes and allows you to deploy applications directly on Kubernetes. As you can imagine, giving you the opportunity to deploy with either Eirini or Diego adds quite a bit of complexity to KubeCF. But one of our top goals is to make sure that configuration is super simple for the user. As you'll see, choosing between Eirini and Diego is just a matter of setting one configuration value. In fact, this is one of the main reasons that we've chosen Helm as our deployment mechanism. Helm is easy to work with, and all of your configuration goes into one file, the values YAML file, which everyone knows. So even though our system is so configurable, we still want to make it easy for users to get started. That means that you want to have sensible defaults, and when you want to install, it should be easy and you shouldn't have a lot of configuration values to set. That's why we only require one. You have to tell Helm what is your system domain going to be. So where will you find your cluster after you install? Then you have to be able to choose what you want to install. What is the feature set that you need? Do you want Eirini? Do you want Diego? Do you want to deploy across multiple clusters? Do you want the autoscaler or not? Everything is configurable in this values.yaml file. It's all documented and commented, so it's easy to read and easy to grasp. Furthermore, it can help you size your cluster as well. Again, in the same values.yaml file, you can add information about how much resources you want to give to your components, how you want to deploy them, set affinity, and so on. Furthermore, we have complex topologies that you can choose from. You can either deploy across multiple clusters, set up your control plane for Diego on one Kubernetes cluster and worker clusters on other Kubernetes installations. You can choose to have an ingress or not. You can set up services with load balancing or not. So we have a lot of capabilities when it comes to topology. Again, everything is documented well. You can check out the values YAML file to find out what values you can set. Of course, this is not enough. Just modifying your topology or your instance counts is not enough. You might want to change the behavior of Cloud Foundry itself. For that, again, we have fine-grained mechanisms that allow you to change any BOSH property inside of Cloud Foundry. It allows you to also set any credential that you want in the system. So you can either have all of the certificates and passwords auto-generated, or you can set them up yourself. And if you're deploying components that are not BOSH-based, of course, Helm is great at providing you with an interface where you can easily configure your components. And finally, sourcing. You can modify where the component images get downloaded from, what tags you use, and all of that. This makes it easy to deploy in air-gapped environments, for example. So as we've seen, it's all very configurable, and it's also very easy to use. I think that's a hard combination to achieve, but KubeCF is getting there. So now that we know how KubeCF works and how you install it, let's talk a bit about where your ideas could come in. Why is it a great platform for innovation? Whenever you see this question mark on the slides, imagine that your component, your extensions could live there. And we provide mechanisms for you to add your components to KubeCF. First, let's talk about Diego. As you can probably tell, Diego is mostly BOSH-based at the moment. That means we have BOSH releases that we convert into Docker images. They still get deployed on Kubernetes, but they need extra tooling to run properly. But even if you deploy with Diego, you still have some components that are Kubernetes-based. The components that we've built in the Quarks operator allow BOSH releases to talk to Kube native components easily. They can share configuration, they can share links. It's pretty easy to set up. So whether you want to extend KubeCF and add another BOSH release to it, or add Kubernetes components that are helpful to you, both are easy to do in KubeCF. Another thing that you can do to extend KubeCF are to add stacks or buildpacks, or change the ones that we currently have. We have mechanisms that allow the user to easily select which stacks are installed when KubeCF deploys, and the same thing for buildpacks. In the Eirini world, Kubernetes will be mostly native. We are trying to dial down the amount of BOSH releases that we use when you deploy with Eirini feature enabled. As you can imagine, Helm is really good at deploying Kubernetes native components, and adding more features to that, more components, is really easy. One thing that I really want to talk about, though, is EiriniX, the extensions part in the middle of the slide here. Through EiriniX, you have a mechanism that allows you to extend Cloud Foundry's capabilities on Kubernetes. We've built a bunch of these extensions that allow Eirini apps to have SSH support, to have persistent support, and other great things. And you can build your own. It's a really simple mechanism, and it allows you to feed in your ideas directly into Cloud Foundry. So in the Diego world, the scheduler, Diego itself, was a pretty closed box. You couldn't really interfere with the process of deploying an app. With Eirini and EiriniX, you gain full control. You have access to the entire lifecycle of the app at the lowest level possible. Of course, on the right-hand side, the apps, all the capabilities that we have in the Diego world, like stacks and buildpacks, are still here. You can still add stacks and buildpacks to KubeCF. Finally, I'd like to talk a bit about Quarks. Quarks is responsible with getting us some higher level Kubernetes functionality that allows us to deploy a complicated system like Cloud Foundry. It can help us with generating secrets, copying them across namespaces. It can template configurations for us. It can do secret rotation. It also helps with workload lifecycle. We know that upgrades are hard, even on top of Kubernetes. So it adds auto reload on configuration change. It has the capability to run errands. It can do canary support for stateful sets, and much more. Of course, this is a much lower level component, but if you feel like there are features missing from Kubernetes, then this is the place to start. We have a project that's easily extensible, so you can add features to these components if you need them. Finally, please find us on Slack, on the KubeCF Dev or Quarks Dev channel. Of course, you can download the source code or the latest release and start building your platform. I've added here some information about other talks and hands-on labs. Some of these have probably happened yet already, but I encourage you to watch their recordings when they come out. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to open it to QA. Hi, everyone. This is the Q&A session for the talk that just ended for KubeCF Platform for Innovation. If there are any questions, please let me know. Hey, Sorna and Mario. Hey. I wasn't sure if I had to follow another link to get to this session, but looks like it. I'm not seeing any questions yet. I also don't know if anyone else can join the call if you want to talk about something. Yeah, it is strange. So you can't join the broadcast, it seems, right? That's funny. Interesting. Yeah, please, if you want me to talk about anything, just write it down in chat or ask a question. Otherwise, it's just gonna be me looking at my screen for a while. Yeah. Okay, we have a question. What has been implemented so far with EiriniX? So we have a few extensions, one for SSH support. So the CF SSH command is not usually available with Eirini. We implemented that using an EiriniX extension that mutates the pod and runs the SSHD daemon and allows you to connect to your app using CFSSH. Then we also have Percy support. So we use Kubernetes storage classes to connect persistent storage to your application. It's sort of a one size fits all. So you have a Percy broker um, that serves any storage class you have connected to Kubernetes. We also have logging. Um, if you look at CF4K8, it has a logging solution that involves FluentD. That particular approach hasn't worked for us in all cases, so we decided to implement another solution that simply uses Kubernetes logging, streams that over to the old logregator, and that's also an EiriniX component. Demetrius is also asking, can I have routing with EiriniX no-go router? So Ettore, I think he's here. He had a sort of a hack project, Spike, where he tried to create ingresses using an EiriniX extension. And I think that worked. So I think the question is yes, you could have routing with EiriniX. Should be very interesting and lightweight as well. Another question. I tried deploying KubeCF. The errors which I got are related to privileged containers. Is having privileged containers enabled for cluster mandatory? Not if you use Eirini. So by default, when you install KubeCF, we install Diego, and Diego requires privileged containers because you have to run Garden. If you use Eirini, there should be no privileged containers. So you can either ask in the KubeCF channel on Slack, or you could look at docs. You can find docs at KubeCF. One second. KubeCF.io should be. I just want to check that I'm not missing that. Yeah, it's just KubeCF.io. You can find docs there on how to enable Eirini instead of Diego. Pierre asks, is there any tooling to convert existing CF deployment plus Bosh ops file to Helm charts values.yaml? So yes, I'm not sure you would call it tooling, but we have an operator, the Quarks operator. And what you do is you create a Bosh deployment CRD. You give it a Bosh deployment manifest, ops files, and it'll try to run that for you on Kubernetes. Of course, before you do this, there's a tool called Fissile, which will turn your Bosh releases into Docker images. So it's kind of a two-step process. You use Fissile to generate the Docker images, and then you use your Bosh deployment manifest plus ops files, give them to the Quarks operator, and it'll try to deploy the Bosh deployment for you. And you can learn more about Quarks in the following link. I'm going to paste it in chat. Hopefully that answers it. And of course, there's also the Quarks dev channel on Slack. So if you want to try out Quarks with a Bosh deployment that's not KubeCF, just find us there and we'll help you out. We have two or three kind of stem cell images for building the Bosh releases into Docker images. SUSE based, Ubuntu based, and I think there's another one that's Red Hat based. So you can start over there and start building out your images. And yeah, afterwards, just try to deploy that thing on Kubernetes. Demetrius asks, what is the project's highest priority for the next major release? So we want to go further with more native components on the Eirini side. So on the Bosh side, we kind of have things, let's say, figured out. We're just going to maintain those components as they are. But on the Eirini side, we want to add more native components. We want to use Kpack and Paketo instead of the old staging. We also want to replace the Cloud Controller Bosh release, the CAPI Bosh release with its native Docker image, and same for UAA. So just more Docker images instead of Bosh releases for the Eirini side of things. Another high priority item that we have is to use more GitHub actions. Our KubeCF release process has been long because our CI is slowing us down a bit. We have to maintain the concourse pipelines, and it's not something that has worked out very well so far. But our experience seems to be better with GitHub Actions, so we're looking at investing more time there. If you're curious about our work and how we structure our work, on the KubeCF GitHub project, you can go to the projects tab and find all of our boards there. You can see what stories we have planned, which are in progress, and so on. And of course, if you have any questions, please let us know in the channel, and you can even join planning if you want. Our ceremonies are open for everyone to join. Thanks, Mario, for the link there. Okay, I think this is it for our time. We are 1 minute past. We had 10 minutes for Q&A. Yeah, please find us either on the Quarks or KubeCF dev channels. We'll see you there, and thank you for joining these sessions. Bye, everyone. Have an awesome day.